I don't do this every Friday usually, but we're going to do this today. So I'm Jonathan Blakeslee. I was born in this fine city a few decades ago, not really in the police station, not in a cell or anything, but when it was a hospital. My mom remembers. But anyways, it's great to be here today. And when I was asked to speak, and one of the cool things is they say, besides, oh, I'm around in this month, they say, here are various topics, and what resonates with you, and what do you feel like speaking about? And they're like, oh, I'm sure you're going to jump in on the community one, which I'm really big on. But for some reason, commitment, I don't know why. I was like, yeah, I don't know why. I want to do this commitment thing. So, and I guess commitment is it's a theme that resonates with me for several reasons, because we all have commitments in our lives, of course. There are lots of commitments we make consciously, and we choose, we have great friends, and we choose our partner or our spouse, or certain things we want to do. We buy a house, and we have lots of commitments that sometimes we don't even remember how we made them, or that just trying to, and sometimes we can feel overcommitted. Like, this is a very special week for me. I feel a little bit overcommitted, but that's an extra good reason for me to be here, because it's like we're in the middle of building out a shop space. I'm finishing up musically, and it's like I actually haven't been that great, but I haven't committed previously in the past to doing a good job of even saying, because lots of people know me as, oh, it's the tea guy, But after years and years, this is year 13 for White Heron, which most people wouldn't know. I started White Heron in 2005. And White Heron started in a 400 square foot space in the same building as Portsmouth Community Radio. Actually, Portsmouth Community Radio's CD library used to be White Heron. That's how small we were. In fact, talk about commitment. I mean, it was a lot of work, but you had to, sometimes you just gotta say go. And one of the funny stories from then is Gary Goss, who he still works at White Heron. It's like, for the last 12 years or so, I remember the first time I ordered tins, and we had nothing. I had no customers, nothing. And I ordered the minimum amount of empty tins I could get to pack tea was 5,000. And we're loading these in, and Gary said, what if we don't sell anything? I said, Gary, that's not an option. Because I'm just like, I'm all in. I'm going to lose everything if I don't make this work. But thankfully, it's like the first year of White Heron, people do ask me sometimes, how did this whole thing happen? I have to think about it, What made me want to do this, or what made me think that I could do this? And most people wouldn't realize, like, now that I'm 13 years in from having a business, etc., it's like, it's not like I wake up every day and have all this amazing self-confidence. I still struggle with stuff like that. But I had to do it. It was just something. I hit a point in my life where, I've had a good life. I've done all, some cool stuff, but I didn't start. I was kind of a late bloomer in a lot of ways. I didn't start White Hair until I was 35. It's like I turned 49 tomorrow. And it's like, thanks. Busy week. But anyways, the funny thing is, I had lots of cool, interesting life experiences prior to then, but I always felt like something was missing. And it's not that I needed to start a business or that I needed to do A or B or C. It's just I needed to sort of clear the decks to kind of and realize it was okay to think about what is really important to me as a human being, And to me, a lot of those things, they don't necessarily have to do with, I think because we all have to work, it's important that to the best of our ability, it's nice to be able to do something that we enjoy, et cetera. And it was something I struggled with for a long time. But anyways, let's get into some slides, and I'll tell you more. So it'll help me remember what I was supposed to say. Okay, make it so. Commitment as a catalyst for change. Actually, two of my fine Aikido instructors are here today, but one of them took us to Japan last year. We went to Tokyo, Kyoto. We went up to Koyasan, high up in the mountains, into Wakayama. And this is Fushimi Inari Taisha, correct? In Kyoto. And one of the reasons I sort of like this as an opening slide, it's like, to me, commitment even as a word, it's kind of like it can make you think of a lot of things. And to me, making a commitment can be a little bit like diving into a mystery. Like, you pick up a book, the cover looks pretty cool. You know, the description's pretty good on the back. But until you get in there, you don't know where it's going to take you. And you know, making your own commitments and stepping out on a new path, or you know, going somewhere you haven't gone before, you don't know where you're going to go. And like, to me, this looks like totally somewhere I'd want to go. But at the same time, there's something that's a little bit heavy and kind of, you know, potentially imposing. But you know, it's kind of nice and light up there. It's like I think I might start walking up those steps, and I think it's going to be okay. You know, so. These are, you know, there are a ton of dictionary definitions of commitment, but I like these two. The state or quality of being dedicated to a cause, activity, etc. Synonyms: dedication, devotion, allegiance, loyalty, faithfulness, and fidelity. Another one: an engagement or obligation that restricts freedom of action. That one hurts a little bit. Synonyms: responsibility, obligation, duty, tie, liability. So whatever the commitments we have in our lives, most of them fit into one category or another. Sometimes there's a little crossover, you know, that's cool. But anyways, the main reason I'm up here talking about commitment today is that I feel like until I hit a point in my life where I started making, you know, basically kind of stepping out of my comfort zone and trying something, you know, it's like trying on boy, I wonder if that jacket will fit. You know, you don't know until you try it on. So, okay, to thine own self be true. Some of these people look familiar. Two of them are in this room. This is Sensei Eric Cass and Sensei Judy Ringer over there. And but anyways, one of the reasons for me, I shared this the way it is like, for years, I worked so hard starting a business because I couldn't, you know, I was going to lose everything financially. Not that I had a lot to start with, but so, you know, yeah, if you got to fall, you know, it's great if you don't have to fall far. But, but anyways, the reason that I like to share this is because for the longest time, even though I'm from here and I grew up in this area, but you know, I joined the United States Coast Guard in 1987, which brought me to Hokkaido, Japan, which actually changed my life in so many ways. But basically, ever since I started White Heron, because all I did was work for the longest time, after a while, I think most people only knew me as, oh, that T guy that works all the time. Yeah. And I started to feel like that. And I started feeling like, who am I and where did that person go? You know, from before when I started a company. So I'm still obviously pretty committed to White Heron, and you know, I'm an employer, I'm a business partner, I'm et cetera. But to me, these are things that, for me, when I go home from work, and you know, I'm a husband, I'm a cat dad. We have an awesome cat that he's like a 2-for-1 special. He's like big enough he could be 2, but he is 1. His name is Gus. I'm a musician, which not that many people know. I'm happy now because before I actually started White Heron, I was a pretty good waiter. But I was a waiter and I had a lot more free time. So when I lived in Portland, Oregon, pretty much all I did was play music, go to yoga, and I'd wait tables a few hours a day. It was pretty sweet. And so for a while, I ended up working so hard at White Heron, I almost let it all go. Even before I started the cafe, I hit a point where I just felt like, you know, this really isn't living. And, you know, I had a decision to make about what type of commitment did I want to continue my commitment to something I had started, or did I want to make a change? I ended up renewing my commitment to my business, I just decided it was time to make some changes. But so I try to be a good friend, you know. I try to be a good son. I hope Dad, Mom, hope you're doing okay. Brother, uncle, community builder. To me, that's just something, to me, that's not like, look at me, I'm a community builder. I feel like as a human being, I feel like I really like to make connections with other people and just kind of, creator, I like to create. It's my favorite thing. I'm total tea geek. Aikido student, traveler, writer, which mostly has been journaling, although I just launched a tea blog, drinkt365.com, reader and Imagineer. So, all right. This look familiar? This is my first job as a supervisor. I'm the one on the left. That's my brother. That's my brother Danny on the right, who is as awesome as ever. But remember when the world seemed fresh and full of promise? It still is. It's like it can feel so overwhelming, you know, sometimes waking up and, you know, really every time you wake up every day and it's like you have all these decisions to make. Do I turn on the news? Do I look at my phone? Do I, you know, sometimes it feels like we can't, it's not that we should tune the world out, but I think it's important to be able to figure out what we need for space. And so for me, for a while when I was working like a crazy, I'm still a crazy person, but when I was working like a crazy person, I didn't really have this, I didn't experience this feeling of kind of like every day, if I really think about it now and now and now, and we have opportunities in each moment of our lives, but we have to breathe. We have to give ourselves time and space. And actually one of the things that's been actually an amazing thing, and Aikido and several photographs related, well, except for this one, will show up throughout the presentation a bit because for the last, I started training at Portsmouth Aikido about 3.5 years ago. And at the time, I felt like a crazy person. I was still working so hard and everything felt so stressful, and I was having a hard time finding a way to reset myself and to feel, oh, you know, just kind of, I'm a busy person, but now busy is mostly fun and with a little work thrown in. So, but it's your life. Choose your own adventure. This is an actual book I had and still have from the age of 10. Does anybody know the Choose Your Own Adventure book series? You know, I was like, dude, you're stealing my thunder. But anyways, like, you know, one of the things for me about, you know, hopefully for many of us, you know, during childhood, you know, there's often somebody looking out and helping us kind of, we don't have to make all these decisions all the time. And, you know, and then to me, this was kind of an introduction to a time in life when I started making some of my first decisions. The book, I didn't know what was going to happen. I just opened the book and then it started asking me questions, you know. And so it's like with these books, you know, you read like a little kind of James Bond kind of plot, and then at the bottom of the page it says, oh, you know, this guy walks up and he's got a gun to your ribs. Do you get in the car or do you run? And you don't know what's going to happen until you flip that page. But anyways, I feel like in many ways in life, it's like, even though that's an unlikely scenario, I hope. But in each day of our lives, we do have choices, and we make choices, and even not choosing is making a choice, whether we realize it or not. Okay, everything you want is on the other side of fear. This is me. This is my first wrestling match in the 98-pound weight class. You can I packed it on, you know, you can tell. But the reason to me this slide is significant. I felt very like, the weird thing is I look like, yeah, look at me, dude. You know, but I was so nervous. I don't even know how or why I joined the wrestling team. I had zero confidence. I thought I was going to lose every match, every time. I was shaken. I remember, it may have been this very match. I remember being lined up outside the gym and, you know, you're all in a line next to the trophy case, and I look and I see the name of the guy I'm supposed to wrestle with a trophy. And I'm like, great. And I don't know how, but somehow I pinned this guy in like a minute. And like, I think he probably, he must have been like, he must have elbowed me in the ribs, and I was like, that's not gonna happen. But anyways, it's like still, it's funny, even when I look at this slide, I still like, you know, there's some part of us, like looking back at our lives, it's like, we're still that person to some degree. We have choices about, you know, who we want to be. But commitment, open a door to a place you weren't expecting to find yourself. I look a little bit serious there. This is me in 1987, 5 months after I graduated from high school. And when I got into the Coast Guard, basically, you know, I went to Marshwood High School in Elliott, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and I was pretty afraid of making the choice of, not that it's a bad choice, but I didn't have enough of a sense of what I wanted to do with my life to commit to going to college right then. You know, to be honest, teen years were pretty like nerve-wracking. I took this whole, decision thing about like, what do you do? What am I gonna do now? You know, it all changes and people handle it differently, you know. But it was a little tricky for me. But anyways, I got into the Coast Guard. I wasn't thrilled, but the best part about this, but to me, it's another example, because open a door to a place you weren't expecting to find yourself. Most people, can anybody guess where this might be? Japan. So I did okay. I pretty much hated boot camp, but because I think we had 60 or 70 people in our company, and I did pretty well in terms of testing and what I was supposed to do. And I didn't realize, but it was a good thing, they could say, okay, you put down your first, second, and third choice of where you'd like to go. And I looked and I'm like, I'm gonna go to Japan, I hope. And that's what happened. And so I got to go to Japan. It was still, actually I think the Coast Guard in retrospect is actually a pretty cool outfit. They have less people than the New York City police force to basically patrol the waters and keep people safe and maintain buoys and navigation, et cetera. But anyways, the best thing that happened to me, that was kind of a happy accident. It's like I got into the Coast Guard, and I wasn't digging it. I was 18 when I got there. I was the youngest person in the whole Coast Guard station. There were 30 people on my base. The next person was like 25 or 26. I was a little bit of an island. And so what happened is they had a voluntary reduction in forces, which meant they had too many people in the Coast Guard. And so I approached my commanding officer and I said, "Sir, I'd like to apply for this, for the reduction of forces." And he said, "Son, you just got in. You can't get out." But, so here's what happened. It's good that I did that, and it was terrifying. So my commanding officer said, "I'll tell you what." He said, "Get your gym bag. I'm going to take you to meet somebody." And I'm like, "What?" And he said, "Okay." But anyways, so he took me to meet my karate teacher. I didn't know I was going to have a karate teacher when I got to Japan. But what happened is I met this extremely kind man, Dr. Hanashi, who was called that because he was a veterinarian, but he was actually I know, but he was also a fifth degree black belt student of the founder of Wado Ryu Karate. And he was an amazing human being, an amazing teacher. But it was still nerve-wracking because all of my training was with my commanding officer, who was like a third degree black belt in Taekwondo and Karate, and this teacher. So it was just the three of us. And I'm obviously the new guy. But it was one of those things that it took me to a place I wasn't expecting to find myself. And what happened is because because I didn't sign up. I didn't say like, oh, hi, I want to take karate lessons, and what do uniforms look like? We got in there, and basically I had no idea what I'm obviously going to do what I'm told. I've got my new big boss, and obviously somebody he's learning from, and so I just learned to kind of come, be there and be open-minded and to practice whatever I was taught. I practiced, and it led me to say this was at a karate summer camp up in the mountains for a week, which was amazing. Every day we woke up at 5:30 in the morning. Oh, this guy had the best alarm clock. It was, it did this meow, this cat thing. It would go meow, 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 meow. It would get louder and louder until people started throwing things at him. But, and this was also interesting too, because I'm up here, in some ways, I'm still a shy person. You wouldn't know it. I've just learned to compensate because when I was a waiter, I would have gone broke if I didn't talk to people. But I didn't speak Japanese, and so here I was at this Japanese summer camp for karate up in the mountains, and I'm the only and no one spoke English. But everyone was friendly and everyone was helpful. And this is like we're playing volleyball. I'm getting ready to make my killer shot, put it over the net there. And but while I was there, I was in some karate competitions. The most nerve-wracking of which was, it was like the Karate Kid moment or something, because this is in Sapporo, Japan. I'm the only non-Japanese person in a tournament. You had to be brown belt or above, but I was not. I was still a white belt, so my teacher made me wear his black belt with his name on it. But I'll tell you what, it really changed my life, and it was kind of like I opened a door to a place I wasn't expecting to find myself by stepping in and by making a commitment to something I was willing to try. In each moment, there are numerous potential futures based on our thoughts and actions. I'll tell you about some of the pictures because I love them. These are all just. This is a picture from Portsmouth Aikido. I'm a tea guy. That's a really nice Japanese sencha green in a classic Japanese kyusu type side handle teapot. And believe it or not, this is behind Ritchie Lumber. One day I was walking there to probably, I don't know, get paint sticks or something, and it was a nice looking bird. But there's a book that I still love. It's called Einstein's Dreams, written by Alan Lightman, who is an MIT professor. And it's not an Einstein biography. It's a bunch of like little mini stories inspired by some of Einstein's concepts. But to me, this is sort of the takeaway. In each moment, there are numerous potential futures based on our thoughts and actions. And in my own life, I remember feeling when I'm pretty young, obviously, but when I was much younger, I always felt nervous about, I don't know if I'll succeed at this. And I often would stop myself, And for much of my life, at this point I can't complain, because once I started saying yes to more things and taking more chances, it's all gone pretty well, considerably. But before that, I constantly struggled, like, why do I think I can do this? Like, even like starting a tea company, it's like, I had lots of people before, I got started. I had lots of people say like, well, how are you going to do this? Do you have enough money, and do you have a lot of experience? And I remember I just had to, when I was coming back from Oregon to here, it was either, actually I enjoyed waiting tables, but I had done it for quite a long time, and I was ready for a change. And I just thought, when I was in Oregon, I worked for a tea company, and I thought when I was coming home, I'd love to continue the type of work I was doing, but I would have had to move to Boston or somewhere larger because there really wasn't anything here at the time. But anyways, I just really like the idea that, commitment is something, it's like whether we're looking at commitments that we've already made, or, commitments that we may wish to renew or not, or, future things. The world is full of potential based on our choices. I love this. This helped me so much. This is a quote from Carlos Castaneda, Teachings of Don Juan. Anything is one of a million paths. Your decision to stay on a path or to leave it must be free of fear or ambition. Look at every path closely and deliberately. Does this path have a heart? If it does, the path is good. If it doesn't, it is of no use. One makes you strong, the other weakens you. And I very much experienced this because I used to really have a hard time. Obviously, I've been talking about having a hard time. I did when I was younger. I just had a hard time choosing, what? Should I go left or right, up or down, But once I hit this even helped me make the decision to, because I remember there was lots of self-doubt about, starting a business or some other things I wanted to do. But I really sort of just started asking myself these questions when I started, how does this make me feel? Does this feel like something that would be a natural extension of myself? And so what if I fail, Congratulations, you're committed. How do you divide your attention between the commitments in your life? And this is inspired by, I love this cartoon. How do you divide your love among 4 children? I don't divide, I multiply. And really, it seems like everyone I know these days is so, does anybody remember, this is a while ago, but, used to say, hey, how are you doing? What's going on? And you'd be like, you been up to much? You're like, nah, not much. Nobody says that anymore, right? Everybody's busy. Everyone's committed. Right? We all have lots of things, but we still have a choice. Even for me right now, it's thankfully what I've tried to do for myself in my life in the last few years is try to have enough of a balance where a lot of the stuff that makes me crazy time-wise, it's all stuff that I want to do. I love training in Aikido. I go as often as I can, and this week I've been bummed because I've been so busy with other things. I haven't been able to get there as much, but it's this week I'm finishing an album. Another thing stepping out, musically, in the last 10 years, I've had lots of bands and projects under different names. For whatever reason, I never put one out under my own name, even though I wrote all the music, pretty much. And so I'm finishing an album this week that I'm going to put out on vinyl. It's Jonathan Blakeslee and the Band of Franz. And the Band of Franz it's actually the band of my friends. It's just basically instead of last year I put out an album with this band, the Look Backs, a couple other friends of mine, which was great. But I had started recording tracks, and I liked the idea of just kind of writing songs and just not planning too much. Just trying to see how it would all happen, and kind of sometimes, actually I still do this. Last Friday I went into the Electric Cave recording studio here in Portsmouth, and I went and said to my friend Mark, I have more than enough tracks to finish an album, and I said, hey Mark, I got a new song. You want to play drums? He hasn't heard the song. And so he's like, sure. And so, but we sat down and, I played bass and did all this stuff, and it's fun to be able to just kind of be spontaneous. And but anyways, for me, it's something that it's another thing I hadn't done before. I'm not sure why, but it still feels like. But anyways, so it's a busy week between building out a tea shop and finishing that and launching a blog and whatever. But it's kind of to me, when you're looking at all the things and the commitments in your life, when you wake up every day and if you're feeling busy, it's okay. But I think it's good to sort of ask yourself, is this a commitment that I'm agreeing to today? Am I renewing my commitment to all these things? I wake up and I say, I have a lovely wife. Thank you so much. It's my cat's still cool. I'll give him some treats. And, but I go to work and I look at all the things and all the choices I have. And sometimes there are things that come up that I would like to say yes to, but I just know I'm too busy. I used to have a big problem with saying yes to everything and then feeling really stressed out all the time. And now I'm trying to, that's something I work on every day. Now is trying to, figure out what I have time for realistically in life. But anyways, does this give me energy or take my energy away? I wish I took this photo. This is actually a photo from York Beach. But this is something that I'm pretty sure my mom mentioned to me years ago. I was having, it was at this crossroads, right? And I was really thinking, how do I make the right decision here? And really just thinking about when taking the time and thinking about how does it make me feel? I used to make so many decisions based on my head, and that's fine, but if they agree, in the end, whatever you do is fine. It's up to you. But I just started finding for myself, the more that I took time to get out of my head a little bit and really think about how something made me feel, I started having more enjoyable results. So, Aaron, do you recognize this photo? You don't remember this? Anyways, freak out, be yourself. The funny thing about this slide, we were in Kyoto, Japan last summer, and we came out of this, you would know which temple it was. There was this beautiful Zen temple we visited. So, we visit this beautiful Zen temple, we're walking out the nice gardens, and we get to the end of the path, out on the road by the bus stop, and I turn to the left, and there's a guy right at the edge of the Zen temple, and on his garage is this garage door. Hobby advisor freak. I have no idea what that means. But I have to say, that's pretty original. Like, I don't know where else you're going to find that garage door on the planet, and who else is going to put that right next to a Zen temple. But anyways, to me, the whole purpose of including this is kind of like, you know who you are, and sometimes it's possible. Some people are really bold, and I was never one of those people. I'm slowly learning, but for a long time I felt afraid to be myself. I almost felt like even just looking at my life now, it's like, how can I be a musician? I still want to play rock and roll when I grow up, someday. But how can I be a musician and maybe be a writer, and how can I run a business, and how can I do all these things? And a lot of it is like, I do it because it makes me happy. I'm not doing it because I think I'm going to make a lot of money, and it's like, not even saying that's wrong. It's just, for me, it doesn't really have any value. In the end of the day, I really think about, like, does this give me energy or take my energy away? This is pretty cool. This Henry Miller, who most people know as an author, I didn't know until recently that he's actually a watercolor painter. If you had to live your life all over again, would you do this or that? Meaning, would you make the same mistakes? The important thing, which I learned from making watercolors, was not to worry, not to care too much. We don't have to turn out a masterpiece every day. To paint is the thing, not to make masterpieces. Why paint? For whom? Enjoy what you see. That's quite enough. What I like about this is, and I guess I could relate something musical from it, like even, why put out a vinyl record? Do I think I'm going to sell a ton of copies? I don't know. It'd be great, but my main goal would be to do it because I want to do it, and to hopefully not lose money in the process. But at the same time, I really have been, I like the idea that, there's nothing wrong with painting and selling paintings or anything like that, but I like the idea that in the beginning, you might paint because you love to paint, and that's okay. Anything you do with it beyond that is totally fine. But, I realize that it's okay. Like, and I guess I think of it too because there's somebody musically I knew years ago who they had a career. They had some sort of career and serious job, and they decided to take a year off from that to see if they could make it in the music world. And then if they didn't, they were going to give up on music. And I felt kind of sad for them, because I felt like you can have your career and you can make music. In the end, it's all up to, we have choices every single day. These photos are kind of, that's from, I think that's from that actual temple that we went to. The freak was at the end of the corner. And that's from some beautiful park, believe it or not, in the middle of Tokyo. Give the world the best you have, and the best will come back to you. I love that. I really love that, and I try to live that every day. And I try not to even think of it too much in terms of like, what am I going to get out of this? I really try to think of this in like, what can I, how can I be a better person? What can I do better? You know, and this is kind of like my mantra. Wake up, kick ass, be kind, repeat. I don't actually repeat this to myself. It's just a photograph. I took that. Every time I see it, I'm like, yeah, wake up, kick ass, be kind, repeat. But anyways, you know, in sum total, that's the whole thing for me is like, you know, within commitment, there are a lot of opportunities. There is an opportunity to look at the commitments in our life and to renew commitments, to look at what we can, that we don't need anymore, and look at the things that have value to us, and, you know, looking into the now and here forward, you know, what might we want to do that we haven't done before? And it's not, who are you proving it to? You know, it's like, honestly, like, I feel like now, if the only person I'm really trying to, I'm not even trying to impress myself, I'm just trying to, I just want to see if I can do something. If I can't, that's okay, you know. Actually, one of the things that I really liked that Jed Coffin, when he was speaking, you know, a few months back, you know, somebody asked him, you know, what's the secret, right? You know, what's the secret to making time to write or do all these things? And I liked what he said. It's like, there's no secret. It's like, if you want to do something, you just figure it out, you know. If you don't have time, you make some, you know, if it's important to you. So this is your life. Choose your own adventure. So I think that's all I have for now.